Hello, I'm Anthony. About a month ago, I made a video called Composing a Song for Acoustic Guitar, in which I talked about the very beginning of the journey of writing a song for the acoustic guitar. I want to kind of elaborate on that concept today because over the past month or so, I've been composing this song and I've recorded it over the past week. And I'm going to go through the process of getting it to the stage where the acoustic guitar track is now laid down and ready to be turned into a song. I'm going to describe those processes today. Hope you enjoy the video. And if you do, check out the Patreon and channel member links below. Awesome way to help support my channel. Sorry about the gravelly voice, by the way. I've got a head cold at the moment. Anyway, we push on regardless. What we're looking at here is a session that I recorded a couple of days ago, I think. The song is now written. It's fully fledged. And what you're seeing there is 3 different takes of me performing this piece on an acoustic guitar. Now, sadly, ambition outstrips talent. I'm generally speaking not capable of playing flawlessly for 4 minutes. So over the course of these 3 takes, I'm hoping to capture enough to be able to construct a well-performed piece. And you're using natural pauses, moments where there's actually no sound whatsoever, that I can cut these things together. Now, the really important thing, if you're going to comp a live instrument like the acoustic guitar, is to make sure that your setup is absolutely consistent. So the way that I set up the my positioning, where I was holding the guitar, how far away I was from the microphone, everything was as exact as possible. And even having said that, you can see that the first take was a little bit quieter than the other 2. Fortunately, there was nothing good enough in it, and all of the actual comped sessions came from 5 and 6, these 5s and 6s. 1, 2, and 3 was just me setting up levels and not really, taking it seriously. So here's a small example of the uncomped audio as originally recorded. You've seen that video a month ago, you'll recognize that little phrase. So this has gone on to become the 4.5-minute song that we've got now. But what I first need to do is go through each of these comped sessions. And as you can see, I've track 6, I seemed to slow down a little bit, or there were bigger pauses in between the phrases where I was kind of thinking about things for a while before I started playing again. But I've lined them all up so that I can A/B between each of these tracks and find out the best versions of each. I haven't done any comping at all at the moment. This initial stage is literally just getting the 3 performances lined up so that I can then go on to do that processing. And after a couple of hours of careful A/Bing, I finally decide on the versions of takes 5 and 6, which, as I say, were the only 2 viable takes to choose from. Fortunately, they were both pretty well played, but each of them, particularly version 5, did have a couple of moments where I think, oh, I've not really hit that note properly, or I've fluffed that little moment. And so as I'm listening to them, I'm making these notes, and you can see 5, 6, 5, 6, 6, 5, really, really simple comping. But that helps me to maintain as much natural kind of poise of the music as possible. As far as the joins are concerned between these events, they work out pretty well because I have natural pauses in the song. So here's an example of one. So when I'm taking my hands off the guitar to move somewhere else, when you get down to the individual sample level, it's incredibly easy to join these 2 things together. Now, this isn't properly finished at the moment. You can see that's just a simple event overlap. Later on in the comping process, I'll properly crossfade each of these events together so that they're absolutely perfectly seamless. But even at this point, they all sound completely fine. So really unnoticeable at all. And I've been very careful because my setup was so careful. Each of the 2 performances is very similar, and you really can't tell any difference between the kind of the environment. I would never do 2 performances like this with any significant period of time in between them, because the atmospheric changes in the room, basically everything, all of the ambience affects the overall sound. And so it's really important to have that consistency if you're going to comp like this. Now, as I'm working on this project, I'm always careful to record as many different versions of the project as possible, particularly if I'm deleting events and, making fundamental changes. I'm never going to delete the audio behind the scenes. This original Lost at Sea up at the top is the raw, unedited, original file. Everything after that, there have been edits and changes and deleted events. So if I end up going down a rabbit hole and deleting something that I eventually decide was a mistake, I can always get back to the original, and you can see me basically evolving this thing as we go. This is the last part of the comping process where I've made all of those choices, but I've still not fully finished the editing process. We still have a simple event overlap there. The next thing to do is to get rid of some pretty loud squeaks. And here we have squeak removal. So I do this manually. I know you can use plugins to accomplish the job, but I've never found a way that's any better than me manually editing the events like this. Let's find a particularly loud one. Okay, here's a good one. So let's disable the volume automation. We'll just listen to this squeak. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. And the way that I create these little automation curves is so incredibly simple. Create yourself a range, drag the range down, deselect the nodes, and then just pull each of the ends in. It's incredibly simple to make these little inverted triangles, and it just completely solves the problem. So with the automation in, can you hear that I've left part of it there? I've not reduced it to zero. You want to hear the natural performance of the guitar, just that where the squeaks are too loud, just pull it down a little bit. That allows me to individually tailor every single squeak to be exactly how loud I want it to be. So that process probably takes about an hour to go through the entire song, finding each of these things and putting all of these little inverted triangles in. And you can see that I'm not worried about the exact shape of the triangle. I'll give it maybe a couple of auditions listening to each one, and the moment I think that it feels natural and organic, I'll move on to the next. Now jump forward now to the latest version of the file. So this that you're seeing here, Tempo Detection version 5, is the current version of the song upon which I'm working. There are 3 extra things that have been done to this. I've tidied up my inserts. So as I've been going along, I have been adding inserts to this track. It's not as it was originally played, because inserts really don't have any negative impact. They make the thing sound nicer to me, which helps when you're editing because this thing can be tortuous. But also, I want to get a little bit closer to how ultimately I'm going to want it to sound. As long as it's not impacting any of the decisions that I'm making, I'm perfectly happy to have it sounding nice. So there's a bunch of inserts on this track. Let's have a look at what we've got. So here's a Neve emulation. There's 2 compressors actually. There's a Fairchild and an LA3A. Here's a Pultec equalizer. And finally, down at the bottom, Trident mixing desk. There is a Lexicon reverb on as well. I'll bring it back in, but I wouldn't add this until I've done my tempo signature. While we're here, we'll just have a quick listen to the reverb. This Arturia reverb is just incredible. I've unsurprisingly done a video on this. I'll put a link to it above, but it is just an absolutely magnificent reverb. I went through pretty much every reverb in my arsenal looking for exactly, I kind of had the sound in my head, how I wanted it to hear, and it took a while for me to settle on the LX24, but when I got there, it's like, yeah, you're doing the job. Absolutely awesome. The other thing that's happened in this project is that we've now added a click track, so I can engage the metronome, a bit loud. And you can hear it slowing down when it needs to slow down. That's going to help me write a melody line over the top. Don't generally, when I'm doing an acoustic piece like this, I want everything to be natural, and I'm quite happy to play to the guitar, so the guitar effectively is the tempo track. But when I'm writing a melody guide vocal for Pauline to sing over the top of, it's really easy for me to play to the click track, and then I can quantize the notes that I'm playing in that are going to be the guide vocal, I can quantize those to the song. So it does help. It probably takes about 2 hours to create this tempo map. They are a bit of a pain. And I've also done a very comprehensive video on how to create this. I'll put a link to that above as well. So what I'm going to do now is shut up. I'll make me go away, and I'm just going to play this 4-minute piece of music. If you want to listen to the entire thing, that would be absolutely awesome. In the meantime, I'd like to say thanks for watching the video. Please hit like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next one. With that said, I'll mute my mic, get this thing going, and hopefully you enjoy it. Thanks very much for watching.